are ready.
Yeah, ready, Mark, get set, go.
Perfect. Hi, welcome to our Rima's Real Estate Expert podcast. I am Juliana, a realtor here in the office, and today we'll be discussing about the real estate market here in Medellín. So sit back, relax, and join me in this conversation that will might change the way that you see the Medellin's real estate market. So we have here our special guest, Ryan.
Hi.
How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. We've been flying all over Colombia. We're back to Medellín.
Medellín. So Ryan is my client, and we are helping him in the process of purchase a property here in Medellín.
Yes.
So Ryan, how have you seen the evolution of the real estate market in Medellín in the recent years?
How do I see it?
Yes.
I've seen it change a lot because I've been coming here for 13 years. So it went from 13 years ago being a place that not a lot of tourism or especially people from the United States came to becoming mostly that, which is crazy in the span of a decade. So yeah, you used to walk through Poblado and Provenza, which is where I typically spend my time, and it would be touristy, but it was a lot of South American tourists, and it would be a lot of maybe Europeans a little bit who the United States is a little scared of coming here. And now it feels like it's tour buses of people in their 40s and 50s coming here to buy apartments and create Airbnbs and places for people to stay at that are visiting here, especially as Colombia invest heavily in tourism here outside of South America. There's certainly, I live most of my time in New York. And when you go to JFK Airport, the major airport there, as soon as you get on the road to all the terminals, it's all just go to Medellín. So from as being an honorary paisa, I think that it's evolved greatly, and it seems like that's driving prices up a bit, which I think is good.
Of course.
Yeah, that's what they need here because it was too inexpensive, which is back probably when I should have bought.
Yeah. And will you recommend invest here in Medellín?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a lot. I'm speaking for myself, but my family is down here with me currently, which is the first time that they've come down here, and it seems like they're pretty convinced to be here as well. So that's definitely factored into the equation. It's something that I've thought about a lot, and I'm shocked and astonished that I was able to convince them to possibly buy here. And but yeah, I have a lot of friends that come here quite frequently. I mean, even we've been here for 5 weeks. I've had friends from Berlin come to visit us here via Italy. I've had friends from New York come down to visit. I've had friends from Bogota come to Medellín to visit. I've had friends from all over Greece come to be with me here in Medellín at times. I have a really well-established group of friends here, which helps. And I've watched them go through the buying process. So that's certainly contributed to my path and thought process and how I've approached all of this.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Because Medellín is nice. You know?
Because Medellín is nice, yes. Yeah.
So, how did your home search begin?
How did it begin? Oh, wow. Well, so I'll leave out the sad part, but 3 or 4 years, just post-COVID, I want to say like the January, February after, post-COVID, when they started lifting the restrictions, I started coming back. This is the first place I came. And part of that was work. I did a lot of performance here and music work. Part of that was just a change. I was gradually spending less and less time in New York, due to a lot of different reasons. But I came here with the intention of moving, and I started looking for places, and then something happened and I couldn't, and I had to go back to the States for about a couple of years. And then only recently have I had the free time to I come back at least 2 or 3 times a year regardless, but I've been afforded the free time to be here much more over the last 4 months. And when I saw the prices and the options and availabilities to Airbnb, I thought it would be a really good investment. Initially, and I think we'll probably talk about this later, but initially I had been looking for 1 bedrooms off of Parque Poblado. But I like some of them, but my friends kind of talked me out of it. Just because it's a pretty crazy area. I think it's a good investment. If you want to do Airbnb.
Yeah, it's growing loudly.
Yeah, for the people that want to be here, but it's if you're older, I think being up the hill a little bit more out towards Alto Las Palmas or Rio Negro is probably more your speed, and I think that factored into me wanting something a little more in between, not being in the storm of Provenza and Poblado.
Like you can be in a good location, but without all
the noise. Yeah, and all the Dutch tourists. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Can you share what excites you the most about this process?
About the process? I mean, it's pretty fun to see apartments. It's fun to fantasize about what's possible. I think it's fun to learn about what's available based on your budget. For several reasons, but mostly because it's just so much greater than what you can get in the United States, especially in New York City. Like if you had, you couldn't buy anything in New York City for the prices that you could buy here. So yeah, I mean, in New York, you're looking at, if you spent $500,000, you would live in a closet, and you would be in a really bad neighborhood. Not a bad neighborhood, because I don't really think they exist very much in New York anymore, but you certainly wouldn't be at an ideal neighborhood, and you would have no space, and it wouldn't be, it could be an investment property, I suppose, where you could buy, if you made enough money to be able to afford a $500,000 apartment, you could buy young and grow. But most of my friends here bought in their late 20s. I mean, that's almost unheard of in New York. You have to be, most people I know are well into their 40s when they start to buy. So I think it spawns a younger generation of apartment owners and homeowners, and that's interesting. And it's also something I think a lot of people in the States are starting to think about. I know a lot of people, my parents, friends included, who have, maybe they didn't save enough up for retirement to exist in the United States for the rest of their life, so they can come here and their dollar goes a lot further, and they're going to be able to live in a much more comfortable place. And I mean, based on my parents' friends, they just have a lot more to do because my parents lived in a very remote area. So
super.
Yeah.
Based on that, how would you describe your ideal home or apartment here?
My ideal home or apartment? I mean, whatever J Balvin has out by the airport's pretty cool. Like anything that could be an Architectural Digest, I'm pretty into. Or his apartment here in this area. Yeah, with the Cause statues and the infinity pool. That'd be nice. But yeah, I think. But I'm sure whatever he paid for I'm sure he paid a lot of money for the house out by the airport. But like in this area, while that apartment's pretty insane, I bet you it was, if Americans knew how much he spent, they'd probably fall over. It's just so much less. Like in New York, that would be a $30 million apartment.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. So I think my ideal apartment, I mean, it's kind of insane because for the price you can get something with a view, something that's quiet but close to the action. Something that has more bedrooms than any apartment I've ever lived in New York, and more bathrooms and a pool and a gym and a sauna and a common area and a playground and a grocery store. So yeah, the amenities are so much more insane than what's possible. Even if you lived in Indiana, like comparably, or Indianapolis or Minnesota, Minneapolis. So yeah, I think you can just it's a lot more bang for your buck, and the weather's awesome. So you've got that going for you too. It's like you're not dealing with a crazy fluctuation in seasons. You typically have an apartment that has a lot of access to the outside. So you have
everything close.
Yeah, you have everything close, but you're living 99% of your day, weeks, months, years with your windows open and your doors open and you're not worrying about bugs. You're not worrying about it being too cold that often. You're not worrying about it being too hot that often. So that's
It's perfect.
yeah, it's pretty perfect weather. It's the luxury of living on the equator. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Let's see how or what has been your like the most challenge.
The most challenging thing?
Yeah, you face here in the.
Not speaking Spanish well enough is probably the biggest challenge. I mean, I think it's been an interesting process because as my family's become involved, there's different requirements than what I would require if I was just looking by myself. Mm-hmm. If I was just looking by myself, it would be very easy to have a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, or a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, or something much simpler, which would be quite a bit less money. But it's not drastically. The price isn't drastically increased by factoring in other factors. So now we're looking for a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom. Preferably with a view of the city, at a relatively low budget compared to the United States, and yeah, that's possible. So, was the challenge of it all? Was that the question? Sorry, I spaced out on the question.
Yeah, you say like the Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish. So the challenge is finding that and finding something that makes 3 people happy with the potential of inviting other people to maybe be a part of the equation. Certainly factoring in the idea of rentals, that's a challenge because you don't want to be too far out of the action. Mm-hmm. There's a fine line of like perfection where you're still, it's quiet, but you're still in proximity to be able to get an Uber. I mean, you can Uber anywhere. You can Uber 4 hours if you wanted to here, but you're only like a 5 or 10 minute Uber away.
Yeah. And decide to rent like
and to rent the people.
Yeah,
which you've taught us about. Yeah, which is the idea of like short-term rentals versus long-term rentals here, which is that's not a unique problem to Medellín. That happens all in every city in the States too. It's a huge thing in New York City and Los Angeles, and I believe Chicago as well, probably Miami at this point, and Austin. But the idea of because people don't want to live in a luxury building anywhere in the world and pay a large amount of money for comfort, only to have a bunch of frat boy tourists coming in, living next door and like drinking and breaking stuff and being on the balconies and screaming and yelling. So I understand it. So they want people that are going to be here for a longer time. I mean, we're really fortunate. You keep asking me the challenge and I keep coming back to the positives, but we're really fortunate to have some people here that are interested in renting the apartment long term. So we're lucky like that. But that's from an established relationship of me being here for a long time, on and off.
And until now, what have been did you expect the process like this, or is more easier or more complicated than you expected?
It was the only difficulty, I think. It's just ironic. Like we met you because we're literally renting an apartment, 2 doors down from the Remax office, and I have friends that are. I hope they don't see this because I'm going to talk smack on them. But I have friends that are. A lot of them are in real estate in the city, and they're all very busy and they have families, and a lot of times real estate is their second thing. So I think we started the adventure with a friend of mine. He got a little too busy. Then I was recommended through another friend to somebody, and we weren't really getting any results. And so one day I just looked at my family and I was like, let's just go to the Remax office and find out what we can find out, because I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the planet. Pat me on the head, and Remax you see everywhere. So I think it was just reliable. And then once that happened, it was like the options were
you are going more on the point.
Yeah. I mean, there was a ton of options, and then I think it's been interesting to go and see and be like, and explicitly talk to you and say, this is what we're looking for. Go to another apartment, like, this is not it. And that's hard. I'm not good at telling people that I don't like something, or that it's not. When somebody's going out of their way to work for you and help you do something, and you're like, meh. Fortunately, my family's much better at that than I am. Hurting people's feelings.
Okay. I don't think so. But
No. They've been nice to you. They've been nice, yeah. No, they're wonderful.
Okay, so
they're better at business than I am.
Would you recommend Remax then?
Would I recommend Remax? Absolutely. I mean, I have yet to buy a chateau in Switzerland, so I don't know entirely what it's like to do this, or a boat on the Nile. But I would imagine that if it's this easy everywhere, it's that'd be great. I mean, I think I've never experienced it in New York. New York's real estate process, but is so different. But I've only ever done rentals, so I couldn't tell you what it's like to buy a place in New York, because like 1% of the world can do that.
Okay, perfect, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to you guys to join us as well. So
good.